Scum and villainy, it's a wretched hive. But life ain't always teddy bears, fireworks, and high fives.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Cantina Club. We've got another episode of 10 Parsecs this week. I've got a little bit of a unique format for it this week, subject matter-wise, and we'll get into that right after this. Take it away, band.
And sing Yum Nub. Sing it with me.
That's a Yum Nub, isn't
it? At the Cantina Club.
We need to do like a disco version of the song updated. I had the 70s guitars in there. 70s crime show guitars.
Oh, here comes the Imperial helmet's xylophone.
All right. So like I mentioned this week, we're going to do a little bit of a different thing with our subject matter is going to kind of link together a little bit more closely than normal. So we'll get into that in a minute. But we do have some unboxings, which I will actually start because I have a few. First of all, I'm actually wearing one of them, and it is a Cara Dune Mandalorian shirt.
Well, I thought it might be a Star Wars condom or something.
Yeah, not quite. Not standing up quite that tall. So,
that's nice.
Yeah, I figured I'd get something now before all the Cara Dune stuff is thrown away forever.
That's a bad thing about streaming. They can go back and just cut all our scenes.
Exactly.
It makes no sense. I'm going to hate when that happens.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Okay, the second one I've got, I just picked up actually yesterday, but it's a new hat. And you'll recognize this logo.
Oh yeah,
yeah, the one from the jackets on the cast and crew were wearing during the making of Empire Strikes Back.
I have a patch of that too from 1979 or 80 when they were giving it out with the fan club.
Yeah, so I love that. I've always loved that logo. So
yeah,
that was kind of cool.
Very
so
cool.
I picked that up. All right, well I'm gonna pause my my unboxings and turn it over to Greedo. Who has one to share? All right, what you got? Mandalorian. Oh, you got, and the child. Nice.
Yeah, Mandalorian.
Nice.
And
yeah, I just
child.
saw that online yesterday. I was thinking about picking that up.
And it comes with.
Oh, the ice cream maker.
The ice cream maker. The Wilro Hood treasure trove.
Wilro Hood treasure trove, most precious thing in his life.
No, these are evidently, they've been sold out since they came out and hard to find. So I had a chance to get one the other day and just went for it because you can't have too many. What are they called? Quatumnos or something? Quataros. Wilro Hood ice cream maker. What are they called?
I don't know.
You remember Werner Herzog said you get a whatever of Beskar. They had a term for it.
Oh, that was right. I forgot about that.
You had no idea what I was talking about.
Yeah, I had no idea what you're talking about. But yeah, they gave it a name in Mandalorian.
Yeah.
I can't remember what they were called. Nice. And where did you actually find that one? Or did you find it
online? I found it online, and it arrived in 2 days, which made me flash back to the good old days before civilization fell into tatters, and we were all covered in ash.
Yes. Hopefully not much longer.
Back when the mail system actually worked.
Yeah.
Halfway.
Exactly. Okay, so I've got two more things that I picked up. Actually, one, which I'll get to in a second, I picked up a while back. I haven't shown it yet. But this one just came in a couple of days ago, and this one's really cool. I haven't even had a chance to really go through it much. But I'm not sure if you've seen this, but it's a book called The Star Wars Archives.
Oh, yes. I've seen some pictures from that. It looks amazing.
It's really cool. It's not real big. As you can see, it's, size-wise, it's not a huge book, but it's very thick. It's a good 2.5, almost 3 inches thick, and so it basically
which is what you want
up,
in a book.
Yep. So basically, just to kind of show.
Oh yes. Yeah. Oh, it's just goodness on every page.
Yeah, it's really cool. And the thing is, this book is this thick, and it's only the original trilogy.
Nice. So, that's the way we like it.
Yes, we really like it. It's a very good
price. Very good price. Oh, I love that.
Right, and
is
that cool on the back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Star Wars Archives picked up. Love it.
That's George Lucas wondering if he's having a stroke or heart attack in the
Exactly.
background.
It's probably not far from
As
the
his
truth,
movie
actually.
falls apart. Where'd you get that?
I got it online, just on Amazon.
I gotta try to get it before it becomes scarce.
And it wasn't overly priced. Yeah, I think I paid less than right around 25 for it. So, which is not
Yeah, a
bad
lot
for
of
a
the
book like
behind
that.
the
Yeah.
scenes stuff in there is great from what I've seen. So definitely
Yeah, it
must
looks really,
have.
really cool.
Nicely done. What else you had?
Okay, so the last unboxing I have is a book I picked up, actually, I think back maybe almost a year ago, but I think I picked it up at a time when we weren't really, doing episodes or whatever, so I didn't really show it. However, it's the reason I decided to show it
unboxing
today.
do-over.
Yeah. So
It's a mulligan.
the reason I decided to do this also kind of goes in line with our subject matter for the day. Stormtroopers.
Oh, nice.
Beyond the Armor. I got this book. I don't know if you've ever seen this one.
No, I should have gotten it for today.
Yeah, it's basically just all about
do my research.
Yeah, it's just basically pretty much all about stormtroopers. It just talks all about everything pretty much you need to know about stormtroopers, how they were designed,
awesome.
where everything came from. That's some really cool photos and stuff there. Yeah,
I love that whole photo shoot with Carrie Fisher with the stormtroopers.
Yeah, with the stormtroopers.
They're all doing different poses. They're trying to grab her and stuff.
Cool with the different helmets on the back there.
That's nice.
Yeah. So anyway, I figured that was perfect for today. And before we get into all that, of course, we're going to jump into our next segment, which is our recommendation segment, Cloud City or Rancor Pit. Cloud City being a positive recommendation, Rancor Pit being a negative recommendation. And I believe we both have a Cloud City again this week. So Greedo, why don't you start us off on this one?
Okay, well, if you've been with our channel for any amount of time from ways back, we used to do Ask the Borgullet when we wanted to know about the future, but then the future became so terrible in all things that we just kind of neglected the Borgullet and stopped talking to it.
Yeah, I miss the Borgullet.
Yeah, I do miss it. So I did this, this last week. I went to the Borgullet, and I know you keep him in a dark,
right,
cell somewhere.
That's what he likes. Yeah,
but yeah, well.
Darker and danker, the better.
That's not what he told me, but
okay.
But anyway,
Borgullet knows the truth. So
yeah, Borgullet does know the truth, and so does Borgullet Services. Now that you've been reported, but for your treatment of Borgullet. But anyway, I asked Borgullet what I should watch, and I said I want a nice family show that I can watch with my mom and whoever else is around. And Borgullet said try Boss Level on Hulu. It's an original movie. I have no idea if this thing is out in theaters or not. I didn't pay that close attention. I don't think so.
I've seen the previews. That looks good.
Yeah, it looks like something that should have been in the theaters. It probably wouldn't have been very successful in the theaters because it's a weird concept, but
that's Frank Grillo, right?
Yeah, Frank Grillo.
Yeah, same one
Grillo.
from Kingdom. Yeah.
Yeah, he's on a roll because Netflix has kind of revived that show. Not many people got to see it because it was like on the Audience Network or something. So it dropped on Netflix, and that's become very popular and evidently well liked by the critics.
Is it on Netflix?
Critics,
I thought it was on
Hulu. No, Kingdom is on Netflix.
No, I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking. I was talking about the
Boss Level is on Hulu.
Boss Level is Hulu.
I'm just saying he's on a roll here recently because
yeah.
of the revival of that series and everything.
Yeah.
And anyway, it's just a fun, incredibly well put together. It kind of reminds me of the first Deadpool in a way, in that they knew what they wanted to do with it, and they just didn't vary from that. And it doesn't go anywhere near as far over the top as the first Deadpool or anything, but it's just a fun concept. The dialogue is been punched up and is funny. His delivery is great. He's a great leading man for this kind of, role. And, all the cast is great. But it even has Gronkowski in it.
Oh, really?
which I thought was funny. There's a lot of cameos. Funny. But I won't spoil the concept or anything, even though you can see it right there on Hulu. When you load it, it tells you what the concept is. But it's very, very violent. It's a R rating, and it earns it. And they didn't pull any punches as far as they throw in dialogue where it makes, cursing and stuff where it makes sense to use it. the violence it doesn't really spare anything on the violence, and that's what's fun about it. It kind of reminded me of a tribute to an 80s movie, you know, where like you would have had Bruce Willis in this role or something,
right,
in the old days.
Okay.
But anyway, it's just I watched it with my mom, who's a big fan of violence and violent movies, and we had a great time with it. So highly recommended. It was a big surprise for me, and it was great.
Excellent. Very
I won't
cool.
spoil any of the surprises in it by talking about anything else on it.
It got my attention, when I was watching some stuff on Hulu recently and saw a couple of previews for it. So I think I'm definitely going to add that. I actually already did add it to my list. So
it's even better. It's better than you think, because I watched it as a diversion, and it was much better than that.
Good. Okay, so so I also have a Cloud City this week, and not necessarily going to go into a lot of detail on it. It's pretty self-explanatory, especially if you've seen it. But it's kind of mindless entertainment, but it's enjoyable, and I like it because I like the genre, and I like this subject matter, and I like the franchise. It's Jurassic Park Camp Cretaceous.
What?
Have you not heard of this?
What are the words you speak?
Well, season 1 came out last summer, and season 2 just dropped, I think, a couple of months ago. So I'm about halfway through season 2 right now. Yeah, they came out. Well, it's animated. It's an animated, and it's aimed towards kids. It's called Camp Cretaceous, and
Are you sure about this one?
I enjoy it because I'm a big dinosaur freak anyway. Have been since kindergarten, and I love the Jurassic Park franchise, and this is just it's just kind of like expanded universe Jurassic Park, as it were. It's just stuff that takes place on the island, kind of simultaneous with the what happens in Jurassic World. And it kind of like when everything goes to crap, this is kind of the story of another group of kids who are there at what's called Camp Cretaceous. It's literally like a summer camp on the dinosaur island, and when everything just kind of goes to crap, and, it kind of shows how they survive and escape and do their stuff and all this kind of stuff. Anyway, I enjoy it.
And are eaten and dismembered and...
Clearly, yes.
Yeah, and the arterial sprays and all that.
Right, yeah, lots of arterial sprays.
Yes. And then the irony of their bones being fossilized millions of years later on the island.
Yeah, so it's way in the future.
Right.
Anyway, Camp Cretaceous, it's mindless fun. If you like dinosaurs and Jurassic Park stuff, it's just something that I enjoy. And they're short episodes. It's like, I think they're all about 20 minutes a piece.
Where do you find it again?
It's on Netflix.
Yeah. Wow. How did I've never even seen that. I guess they know not to recommend it to me.
Probably.
I like Jurassic Park.
Yeah, but it's not up Greedo's alley. Let me put it in Star Wars terms, and
my alley is crowded already.
You will run screaming. It's like the Resistance of Jurassic Park.
Ooh.
No, it's actually better than that, though. I definitely like it better than that. But anyway, so that's my recommendation.
The resistance of anything will make me run screaming.
All right. So like I promised, we have a sort of a linear theme to our top 3 topics this week for 10 parsecs. And once again, 10 parsecs, if you're new to this, we basically take 3 topics, 3 usually random topics in Star Wars, discuss them for 10 minutes, and or each subject separately for 10 minutes, and at the end of the 10 minutes, the timer goes off and we move on to the next subject. This week, however, the theme is going to be the following.
There you go. How are those glasses fitting in there?
We're talking all Stormtroopers all day, so enjoy that.
Yeah, we've got a guy in a Stormtrooper helmet and another guy named Greedo, so I hope Hello Greedo doesn't sue us. Doesn't sue our channel. Oh, he can't hear me.
Oh, I couldn't hear you. What were you saying?
Nothing. It's better to remain a mystery.
I'm sure.
No, right. that was maybe we need to do a maybe we'll get more views if we do a fully masked episode. You might be onto something.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, so the three topics are going to be well, first we're going to start and talk about our favorite Stormtrooper moments, favorite Stormtrooper costumes, gear, just kind of everything about Stormtroopers. Then we're going to move into Clone Troopers, same subject matter, same, if they're individuals we want to point out, if there's certain types of costumes and equipment and things about Clone Troopers that we like. And then we're going to wrap it up with kind of get into the sequel trilogy a little bit and talk about the whole sort of liberated Stormtrooper aspect, like Finn's character, what we kind of in retrospect, what we think of what they did with that idea, the idea of a Stormtrooper turned good, as it were. Okay, so I'm gonna, unless we have any other housekeeping to do here, I'm gonna start the clock for our first subject. And we are on the clock. Okay, favorite Stormtrooper. I mean, for me, honestly, it's just the classic original Stormtrooper. When you talk about anything and everything, when it comes to Stormtroopers, Clone Troopers, you've got Scout Troopers and we've got TIE Fighter pilots, which basically have the same stuff, just black. We've got Sith Troopers now with the sequel trilogy. You've got all different types, and obviously we've got Scarif Troopers, and I mean, every movie's got its own version now. That's kind of like the thing to do now. I think if you got a new movie or a show, you have to get your version of a Stormtrooper
and try to
exactly
find
kind of put your own take on it.
It's also a gold mine for action figures.
It is,
because you just vary it. You got the same body, and you just do some different changes, and
you make a couple of cosmetic changes, and you've got a whole new thing.
Right.
So. But yeah, my favorite is the original classic. Is there a specific design for you that jumps out as like your absolute favorite?
Well, it's kind of interesting because each movie in the original trilogy, the Stormtrooper design was slightly different. And I guess my favorite is the original from the first movie, where they were less symmetrical.
Yeah.
They were made, kind of, I don't know if Don Post, no, it wasn't Don Post. It was, I forget the name of the gentleman in England who made the first molds and everything. But that stuff was, if you go back and look at it, especially if you look at an original version of Star Wars, it was very rough. And the eyes aren't symmetrical. The lenses aren't perfect. You can see mistakes on a lot of the different armor that was used. They had hero armor, they had kind of stun armor, and the stuff they put in the background and everything. And the pieces and the people wearing it, it looks like it was very difficult to actually pull off wearing it originally.
Absolutely.
And to move around it and stuff. But
you can see that just in some of the not to cut you off, but just some of the gaffes that we see in the original Star Wars. Guys walking, bumping into doors because they can't see where they're going and things like that.
You can see pieces not perfectly put on in the very first scene when they come through the door and are shooting the rebels and stuff.
Like a shoulder piece around, almost hanging off.
Yeah, there's some legs and stuff that are and some of the torso pieces that are messed up. And the guys didn't even really know how to put it on quite right.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and then in Empire, I think things got cleaner looking, and there's definitely a difference if you're a helmet collector or you're into that stuff between A New Hope, hero type helmets and Empire, and then there's even another difference in Jedi. And I've seen some of the original Jedi helmets that are still left over, and some of the ones made from the original, like they wrote on the inside of them, which actor would wear which helmet and stuff like that. I've seen some of those, and it's all very interesting stuff. But I kind of have a fondness for the ones that aren't perfect, and because it's just more interesting. And also the Sand Trooper from Tatooine,
with the orange shoulder piece.
Yeah, and the original shot of them coming into the Tantive 4 and then just mowing down the rebels, and they even lost a couple of guys, but they were just like a wave coming in. And I still remember what it felt like seeing that design for the first time and just being so blown away and intrigued. And the like even the Stormtrooper like shooting around the corner before he goes over and stuff.
That's so great.
I mean, just all that stuff. And the one guy kind of checking on the dead one on the floor, and then he stands up when Vader comes through.
Vader walks through.
You don't see a lot of that anymore. After a certain point, they start shooting Stormtroopers more like cardboard cutouts. They don't see them showing much concern for each other and stuff. But I've always liked that moment because another reason was I had the original. Was it done by Kenner, the viewer? That had like
the
a
Viewmaster,
film
or
reel,
not the Viewmaster, but the actual thing you would.
You would turn a handle on the side and look in, and the film would roll at whatever speed. You could look at each frame of it.
Yeah, you could do it super fast or like literally frame by frame.
And I had that one that had the breach of the door and the Stormtroopers coming through in the first few seconds of that.
I remember that. Yeah,
I watched that over and over again. Plus, it had the part where Han and Luke go into the detention bay and that shootout. So that was freaking awesome.
So
as a
great.
kid, I wore that out.
Mhm.
And that's another reason I like the original, probably because Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill, Han and Luke wore those.
Right. They actually wore those
scenes.
designs.
Yeah. And I will say, as long I always talk way too much in these, but my other favorite movie for Stormtrooper designs after the original trilogy is Rogue One, because I think the Death Troopers brought a little bit of efficiency and fear back to the Stormtrooper.
Yeah, I agree.
They're tall and imposing. The design is great. It's very black, but it has a lot of details in it, so it's hard to photograph and really get a good look at, but when you do, it just looks really good. I like the sounds they made. They really knocked it out of the park with the whole design, in my opinion. And I also like every variation of the Stormtrooper they have in that movie is really great. The only knock I have against it is that the rest of the troopers they continued to pummel them while they were down, getting beaten with a stick and getting punched in your helmet, and you're somehow defeated,
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff like that, and just continually being clueless and stupid. But in their sheer numbers and the way that they, their military machine, they did win that fight, sort of. The rebels didn't have enough to compare to them, but so anyway, for the designs, Rogue One is my other favorite movie, I guess.
I would agree. Okay, so for me, like when we were kids, I was so intrigued by just the overall idea of the Stormtrooper, the armor, the way they looked, that because back then, basically, TIE fighter pilots, AT-AT drivers, all of it is basically just a Stormtrooper. They put like stickers on the helmets for AT-AT drivers, and the TIE fighter pilots were black, which was amazing to me. I thought that was so cool. That's why I couldn't wait to get that figure, the TIE fighter pilot figure. I loved every aspect of everything they try to do with them. And now, of course, they've gotten it, like you were saying, with like Rogue One, for instance. They've got various different types of Stormtroopers with totally different armor and things like that, all kind of the same motif but different different to a certain degree. But this guy is still my favorite. Just the original design is just so classic and so cool. This is one of the more
that Black Series helmet, I believe, is based on the Rogue One.
The design,
which is different than the 3 original movies slightly, and I'm not a helmet expert, but there are differences of some kind. So, and a lot of it has to do with the eyes and the sculpt of the face and everything.
Right. Oh, okay. But this one's really cool. I really like it. This one is, of course, definitely a symmetrical one. This isn't like original Star Wars.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's a mass-produced, mold and everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is really cool. But this is my favorite. I mean, the classic original is definitely definitely my favorite. But I just love all the offshoots of it because they offshoot from something that's so classic and cool to me that I just like just about everything they've done with it. But like when you brought up the Death Troopers, that to me is probably the most unique, newer design. To a Stormtrooper. Like you said, it did kind of bring the fear back a little bit. I love the fact that you can't understand what they're saying.
Yeah.
People get kind of pick on
they're
that.
Like special forces where they're either aliens or they're programmed to speak that way, or it's probably scrambled, they're
right. It's like some sort of they're scrambling the language so that it can't be picked up or deciphered. Yeah, exactly. But they can hear it from helmet to helmet. They can hear it normally. But I love the Death Troopers. So I would say original classic Stormtroopers is my favorite, followed pretty closely by Death Troopers. Yeah, that's a really cool design.
And I will say the original Stormtrooper Kenner figure is probably one of my favorite action figures of all time.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
even though they are notorious for the arms and legs turning yellow because they were a different plastic than the torso and head.
Different type of plastic. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, you can always tell how old they were because they had yellow arms.
But that was an original dream, I think, for both of us, was to have like 50 of those.
Just to have a whole squadron.
And we could never do it.
Exactly. But I love, like you said, even the way they voiced the Stormtroopers. To me, they had a sort of an air of menace about them with that sort of that speaker that you could hear that in the very before and after they would speak and things like that. I always thought was really cool. Just so all the different aspects of it were cool because again, I know you have the pet peeve. Your big pet peeve now is that they are kind of a laughing stock of the Star Wars universe.
They are, yeah.
And they basically
need to be redeemed.
I think they're a little bit better than what you give them credit for. But I totally get your point. I think
we just always see their worst moments. They don't
Yeah.
give us any
Yeah,
great
you just see the
moments from them.
Keystone Cops troopers at
Yeah.
this point. Yeah,
You see
You
the
know.
wave after wave attacking Boba Fett and Mandalorian, and they're just useless, you know. And
Yeah, they're all just
there's just how many
fodder.
different ways can we kill a
And they literally
stormtrooper?
turn and just run, scampering back to the ship. You know,
Right.
it's like,
And the
now let's.
commander is just the most clueless guy in the galaxy.
Yeah,
How is
exactly.
the Empire making it anywhere with these people?
Yeah, compare the attack on the Tantive 4 with them coming
Right.
into that corridor versus them trying to take on like 3 people on in the Mandalorian, and they all go running with their tails between their legs. You know, it's really kind of interesting how far they've fallen. So point well said. All right, well that's our time on Stormtroopers. All right, so let's move
I always
on.
want to say one more thing. Can I say just
Sure.
one quick thing?
Yeah,
I
go
always
for
had
it.
a fascination with the Stormtrooper because we didn't get to moments, but the moment
Yeah.
where Blast the Door Kid from Star
Mhm.
Wars, when all the Stormtroopers turn around when Luke screams and start opening up, and they can't. And this is at the beginning of the end for them. They can't hit the
Yeah, they
broadside of a
can't hit
bar.
anything. Yeah.
Right. They can only hit ships that are leaving. You know,
Yeah.
they can't hit them when they're sitting there. But anyway, the one that runs towards him and his midsection explodes and looks
Mhm.
all purple and red, and he falls into that pit. I always had a fascination with that guy because that scene is shot and cuts to different angles. So he's
Mhm.
at different spots in his destruction, at different spots in that as that clip plays in that part of the movie. And as a
Mhm.
kid, I was always trying to figure out what happened to that dude. How far did he fall? You know what?
Yeah.
You know, I just thought it was so cool that he was on fire. You know, he just like burst.
Exactly.
Anyway, I love that guy. I wish I knew who the stuntman was that did that stunt because
No, that is
that was
cool.
really
That is
cool.
very cool. Yeah, he'd be a good autograph.
That's
Get
one
on
of my
your
favorite
posters.
weird Stormtrooper moments, you know. I
Yeah.
love anytime they put a squib on their armor and blow it up.
Mhm.
It's just really neat.
Oh yeah, like the one in Empire that Leia shoots past like.
That's one of my favorites.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
And
one
the burning
where the
hole
camera
there.
follows him down and he
Yeah.
falls straight. Yeah, that's such a great one. Okay, so let's do basically the same thing now with Clone Troopers. So we are officially on the clock for that. So Clone Troopers, obviously I have an affinity for these guys because they're all, running through my favorite Star Wars thing ever, Clone Wars, pretty much. And the difference, I think, though, the biggest difference between Clone Troopers and Stormtroopers, at least in Star Wars lore, is the fact that we get individuals. In Clone Wars, they actually show us who these guys are, whereas we never really got that in the original trilogy. They were just Stormtroopers. I don't think we ever even saw one with a helmet off, did we? I don't believe we ever did in the original trilogy.
No,
They're
yeah, I
basically
don't
just
think so.
always, either attacking in mass or they're just there with Vader, just kind of in the background, whatever. You never get to know their personalities. But the closest we ever got is that one little shot of, guys just kind of shooting the crap, on duty while Obi-Wan's turning
Right.
off trying to sneak past them and, distracting them on the Force. But with Clone Troopers, it's a totally different thing. You get their names, you get their background, you get what motivates them. Why are they doing what they're doing? Obviously, they're clones; they don't really have a choice, but they do. But it's not that they're mindless clones. They think for themselves and they have their own personalities. So for me, I guess if we want to talk design wise, I like some of the later designs, kind of what we saw in Revenge of the Sith a little bit. I guess probably because they're a little bit more akin to the original Storm, because they're slowly evolving into what the original Stormtrooper armor is going to be, more so than what we saw at the end of Attack of the Clones, which is more that had that weird sort of steepled piece that comes off the back of the helmet, and more of the sort of weird connector with the eye, like a one piece of the eye, nose, and mouth like this. I just
It's
didn't
more
care
of
for
that
that.
older sci-fi aesthetic that we talked
Exactly.
about the
Very good
prequels.
point.
Yeah.
Very much so. But yeah,
Rocketeer type stuff.
Yeah, so aesthetically speaking, I like the latter stuff better, and that's most of what they went into with the Clone Wars animated series. It was more of the latter design, and I really like that, and the fact that I also liked is the fact that they allowed them to kind of doctor their own helmets, so
Yeah.
you'll see different paintings or different sort of artwork on the side of some of
They
their
start to
helmets, and
express themselves a little bit when they've
exactly,
survived.
which I
Yeah.
thought was a cool touch as well. And then you got the clones with the tattoos on their faces and stuff like that, because again, we see them without their helmets all the time in the Clone Wars. So what about you? What's kind of your take on Clone Troopers? What attracts you to that design?
Well, the number one contrast for me between Clone Troopers and Stormtroopers is that, as far as I know, Clone Troopers don't exist, right? In physically in anywhere. Like, you can't go in a Star Wars museum and see screen accurate clone armor, because wasn't all of it created CGI?
I believe it was all created CGI. Yes.
I mean, they may have had some. Tamir Morrison may have appeared in some of it, but I've heard that all of it was CGI, and then used the literally cloning technique to create masses of them. And then you've got Clone Wars, the animated series, which of course there's no need to create the armor and stuff for that. You draw it all. So yeah, that's one of the main kind of interesting things to me, is that I don't know, that it's kind of a perfect marriage of something that you can create and have it be cool, and then just make mass numbers of it using computers. And it worked out really well. Like in their intro in Attack of the Clones, that's one of my favorite moments from a movie that I despise completely. But there's good moments. If I just, I can watch those moments.
Yeah, there's still
the whole. The moments are
them.
better than the whole, instead of the reverse. But yeah, when Obi-Wan first figures out that something's going on, and you see the massive clone troopers and they're assembling and everything, and then at the end of the movie as well. And I also love that shot where they all get off the transports on what's the Geonosis?
Geonosis,
yeah, and they're all just firing through the sandstorm or whatever.
Yeah,
through all
that is really cool.
Yeah, that's still cool. That's a really cool moment. That
you're seeing the reflection of the other blasters off of their armor and stuff.
And you're finally
really cool
getting it's another one of those cases where the prequel stuff is more advanced than the original trilogy, because the clones have repeaters. The clones have rocket launchers and grenade launchers and all this stuff that would be extremely useful if the Stormtroopers had it. But the Stormtroopers have guns that jam and then just fire. It's super inaccurate. And but the clone troopers have like this massive, like smart gun from Aliens or whatever. There's mowing stuff
exactly. They have quite the arsenal for sure.
Yeah, and that's cool. And I want to say Battlefront, all the original from the 2000s Battlefront game was what made me like clones, because I wasn't watching Clone Wars at the time. But playing clones and running all the maps, like Cloud City, I remember, because I had many clones fall to their death off the platforms of Cloud City into the Bespin atmosphere or whatever. And then the remake of Battlefront 2, it was just a few years back, 2015, maybe 16, I don't remember. But I've played many times as a clone in there, and a clone sniper, and the different types of clone troopers, and they introduce more and more skins and stuff. There's one that kind of, I think it's from the Wookiee planet or from the jungle planet, that's got the green and silver. He's like Commander Gree, I believe.
Oh yeah, that's really cool.
That's probably my favorite clone trooper armor.
Yeah, I love that
look. And I play a lot. I play on Battlefront 2 with that look a lot. I got that skin somewhere. I don't remember where.
Nice.
But yeah, clones are very cool in that they've gone into the story of where they came from, how they develop, where they go to school, their training, their deployment, how they change when they face battle, and they learn to question the reality, their brotherhood, the fact that they consider themselves brothers, and you never get that from Stormtroopers.
Right.
There's a lot of super interesting things that probably J.J. Abrams intended to go into in the sequel trilogy a little bit with the stuff we'll talk about next. But that's my favorite thing about the clones, is how they took something that was almost like a throwaway concept and really delved into it and made it interesting and memorable.
Right. Well, as far as individual characters, because again, we get to learn the individuals with clone troopers that we didn't with stormtroopers. We've got, of course, the two you have to mention are the ones that actually appeared, played by Tamara Morrison in Revenge of the Sith, Commando Cody and Captain Rex. They obviously play a very large role throughout the Clone Wars, but then the Clone Wars, of course, expands on that and gives us way more characters. One of my favorites, obviously, back a couple of years ago when we did our top 10, characters of all time, Fives made it in there for me. I like the personality they gave that particular trooper and some of the things that he did. He ultimately was the one, spoiler alert, who ultimately, kind of sort of almost blew open the whole Order 66 thing. He kind of discovered it before it actually happened. But anyway, I just
so
think
close
that,
and yet so far.
yeah, honestly, I would just say, anybody who wants to see why I love, the Clone Troopers so much, just watch the season 1 episode, Rookies. And I just love that episode so much, because it shows a cool kind of the bonding of these guys being thrown into action for the first time. And it's a lot of the characters that you'll see that last throughout all 7 seasons of the Clone Wars. They're introduced there in that first season episode, and it just goes from there. And now, of course, I think it's interesting too, we've got coming up soon, actually on May 4th, of course, Star Wars Day, we've got the Bad Batch series coming up, kind of an extension, as it were, of the Clone Wars with the 4 sort of non-typical, sort of atypical clones that we got to see the 4 episode arc in season 7. So what, are there any particular personalities that stand out for you that you tend to like?
Yeah, pretty much what you said, but I'm always going to be a fan of Rex because mainly because I watched all of Rebels before I watched all of Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm.
So he was kind of the thing that anchored all those different series together, and I loved old Rex. I thought he was really cool. He was like, and the way the characters in Rebels didn't really understand his history or anything, or they kind of almost took him for granted, but he was part of the glue that held that whole thing together. And I just thought it was cool that they bothered to show us that character in all these different stages of his life.
Yeah, I thought that was really
cool. So yeah, he's my favorite probably. And then is it Steven Stanton? Is that the voice actor's name who does?
I believe it is. Yeah. No, actually, hold on. Go ahead and keep talking. I'll come up with
Well, the voice actor for Clone Wars does such an incredible job with doing the same voice and yet creating individual characters.
D. Bradley Baker. Sorry.
Yeah, there you go.
D. Bradley Baker.
Steven Stanton did Obi-Wan and some other stuff. But anyway, without him, I don't know what that performance in Clone Wars would have worked as well and everything, and that development of all these different characters and stuff, because Clone Wars is on high speed all the time. It's in a different gear all the time. You don't really you get to a second to mull over developments and they move on.
You don't
to
catch your breath
else.
very often.
Yeah, so he does a great job in that format of selling us on these individual clones and everything.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because he managed to use the same voice to bring out different personalities. He could change his voice just enough to where it still sounded like a clone, but it sounded like you could almost tell it was Fives versus Rex versus. And
as odd as it is, he's not playing a schizophrenic. He's not doing 9 personalities in one person. He's doing one person who is somehow also all these people who have had different experiences and have come out differently and everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I want to say the Bad Batch designs I really enjoy. They started putting out action figures based on the Bad Batch, and in 3D, where you can look at them, they look really great. And
nice.
So I enjoy those designs now too.
Very cool. All right, so that's it for Clone Troopers. So let's wrap it up with kind of a look at the sequel trilogy and this whole concept of stormtroopers turning good, or trying to leave that life behind them, which we explored with Finn to limited success, I feel. Why don't you run with that, and let's see what you have to say about all that, Greedo.
Okay, yeah, the subject is Finn and the deserter troopers that showed up in Rise of Skywalker,
right?
And anything we want to talk about that, but great idea. tremendous idea.
Absolutely.
And first off, it never even ever occurred to me to criticize Finn for the color of his skin as a character, as far as saying stormtroopers couldn't be this or that,
Yeah, of
because
course.
again, what do we know about what stormtroopers can be 25, 30, 35 years in the future from when the original trilogy set? Everything's completely changed. So and even then I wouldn't criticize it, but it made no, that criticism made no sense to me ever. And I really don't believe there was that many people doing it either. I think it was just overblown. But anyway, great idea, great casting, really good actor who can do a lot, extremely versatile, young, proven, but still unknown enough to make an impact in Star Wars, which seems to be a good formula, you know, is finding these people that not everybody in the world is familiar with and letting them break through and identify with a Star Wars character. So it's a great idea, but again, like so many things that J.J. Abrams does, it's a great idea and it's a great start, but it stumbles
Just doesn't
and
seem to go
doesn't
anywhere.
ever stick the landing. Yeah, and but Finn in the first movie, I felt like was great. I didn't like how they started to. He was a comedy relief from the beginning, but you can be funny. You can be Han Solo and be funny. You know,
and
there's
still
a
be an
fine
integral
line though.
part of the story.
Yeah, to you, there's a difference between Han Solo and A New Hope and Han Solo and Return of the Jedi, and it's all about the execution and what lines you're given and all that. So I felt like somewhere in The Force Awakens, it starts to go wrong when it's revealed he's a janitor for Starkiller Base. I mean, all that stuff was okay, but at some point, I wanted him to have the skills and everything of a stormtrooper. And when he got to fight on, was it Takodana, where the Maz Kanata's castle was, and he comes out with the lightsaber swinging, and they have the fight and stuff like that. At least we got to see that he was trained in combat and everything. It wasn't just that he didn't leave the stormtroopers because he was incompetent and didn't have the stomach for killing. It was because he had a conscience, you know. And so the mistake that I feel like they made was when they started going, this guy's great at comedy, you know, he can deliver anything we give him, and his timing's great, and he has that comedic chemistry with the rest of the cast, and they just went too far with that, in my opinion. They you can't in a war movie, which essentially Star Wars is at the end of the day, you can't just have a character just be nothing but comedy. It really gets tiresome, you know. And I'm going to let you talk for a minute, but I will say the idea was brilliant. I loved it. I loved the blood on the helmet. That's another one of my favorite Stormtrooper designs. I wasn't super fond of the new Stormtroopers, but they were okay. And that was just a brilliant, awesome visual and moment, and a great setup. But
and I mean, and not only the look of it, just the cool streak blood down, the hand streak. It's the symbolism, that's actually showing, is giving humanity to the stormtroopers, because look,
and it was
they
one
bleed,
of his comrades,
they die,
one of his comrades' blood. It wasn't one of their victims. You could have gone either way. They could have killed somebody in front of him. A victim could have reached him for help, and put that. But instead, it was one of his own comrades being killed in front of him, putting his mark on him, and almost like, why didn't you save me, or why couldn't you do enough, or why are we dying type moment.
Exactly. So as far as my take on it, I thought, like you, I almost agree 100% here. I think it was a great idea to see a stormtrooper turn, and kind of give up this life that he's been grown for basically since he was a kid, because that's kind of the whole concept here that they give us, is that they take these children away when they're very, very young, and they just train them and brainwash them at that young age to just be these mindless, stormtroopers fighting for the First Order at this point.
Which, how much sense does that make?
Right. Yeah.
That's good for just taking on the galaxy in a big fight. But then what happens next? Those people, those people are going to be living years of their life experiencing the world and stuff. They can't just be soldiers. The whole First Order thing made no sense at all. I would have much preferred if they had something that was worth fighting and dying for, that they believed in, than just being trained as children to take back for the Emperor who never cared about anyone.
Exactly. But I think that, again, it just the storyline didn't pay off, and I wish they'd have focused more on, that whole aspect of Finn and what he experienced as a stormtrooper and why he's trying to get away from that, as opposed to just like you said, basically by the middle of Force Awakens, they turn him into, kind of a coward and, someone who just wants to run away and be by himself. And then from there, they just turn him into comic relief by the time Last Jedi rolls around. He's just, a punching bag.
Yeah, he's got
basically.
the funny coma. He's got
the funny bag with the water squirting out of it.
Yeah, he's got the funny tasering. He's got,
right.
And he also in the Last Jedi reverts to immediately running again. That's his whole agenda for the beginning of the movie, is to run away again, which that was over when he picked up the lightsaber, and when he decided to go get Rey back. I just didn't agree with that stuff. And I was waiting for the story that finally came around in Rise of Skywalker, where stormtroopers began to follow his lead and defect and stuff. But the big flaw here, and why it didn't work for Finn,
I know where you're going.
Why don't you say it?
As far as him killing other stormtroopers.
Well, that too. But
Okay.
that was a bad move, without showing any remorse or anything. But
that's the thing, yeah.
There's that. That's a fatal flaw. The second one, though, is I was waiting for this story. It should have been in The Last Jedi, because his stories made no sense that they put on him from
they didn't know what to do with
second
it.
movie on.
Come up with some Canto Bight. Let's do that.
Yeah, but he should have become a legend amongst the First Order troopers who were beginning to see with their own eyes, and in these communities they're conquering and planets they're conquering, they're starting to see a different way of life exposed to them. And if someone can defy the programming and defy Hux and defy whoever, a Snoke, and run off and and become a hero and do great things and do things on his own and become a symbol of something else, that with ideas, you can't kill ideas. They say you can kill people, but not ideas.
But not ideas.
Yeah, that should have been the idea that caused these stormtroopers to defect, so that Finn would have more of an impact on the story and have a point for his existence. And instead, they have a conversation. She goes, "Oh, we just didn't want to do it anymore." And so they were exactly the same as Finn. Yeah. They were not inspired by Finn. They were not, and it made Finn, I guess, more of a common man. And it's one of the things that's frustrating to me about the sequel trilogy, is they would not let the people be heroic. Right. It was always a caveat, pullback. And anyway, that was very frustrating for me. But you may bring up a good point about him mowing down stormtroopers.
And it wasn't just the mowing down stormtroopers, because obviously, somebody shooting at you, you're going to shoot back.
Right.
But the fact that he just reveled in it, it's like
that he was angry at them, and we don't know why.
Yeah, exactly. And he's killing them, and he just, one of our favorite, pet peeves is just woo, It's like this constant woo every time he kills one of his fellow brethren or whatever.
Yeah. It's like, you could have lived a life like me, but woo.
Exactly.
That's not woo. Woo. Yeah, I'm good at this. Yeah. I'm getting the hang of killing my brothers and sisters.
So that, to me, I thought took away from it a little bit as well. It took away from any sort of, importance on that storyline. And I know that honestly, by like you said, by Rise of Skywalker, they'd kind of given up on that idea anyway. And it really didn't, like you said, they just kind of threw it away with that sort of, oh yeah, well, I just got tired of doing it too, like you said. As opposed to that could have really been the culmination of what they had worked for 3 movies.
It could have linked bringing in so many of the older characters like Lando. They ended up hinting that he lost his daughter. They even said he lost his daughter, and it was supposed to be she was in that group. Well, Finn could have been the one to bring all these stories together to tell the Resistance the First Order isn't just evil. There are people fighting against their will. Basically, they haven't been shown anything. I mean, he could have been a symbol for both sides and a way to. I don't know, something. Instead we got the whole we will not win by fighting things we hate.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
but
so again, I think that was
doing dumb things.
I think we'll just chalk that whole storyline up to a missed opportunity. At least that's the way I view it.
Yeah.
Definitely a missed opportunity. I think they could have really done something with that. That's almost, to me, worthy of exploration in even like its own series in a way.
Yes.
I could see them having a series that's centered on someone who is a stormtrooper having a crisis of conscience, and trying to get out and getting out, and just kind of that whole storyline. I think that would make a fascinating story, to be honest.
I also think that's partially what Cara Dune is supposed to represent for the rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
Is she was actually disenfranchised or felt jaded
Right.
by the rebellion. So that's
Mm-hmm.
interesting too. You know, that not everybody is a hero on one side and not everybody is a villain on the other.
Exactly.
But
All right. Well, that's our time on that as well. So yeah, so that's our first time on 10 parsecs, and we've kind of gone with a similar theme all the way through the whole thing, and I still feel like we barely scratched the surface. So there's so much more we can talk about with these ideas, and we're definitely going to come back. We've already been talking about it. At some point, we're going to take some of these subject matter, some of these topics, and kind of expand them into full episodes on their own. I believe that's something that's definitely coming down the pike. Well, any parting shots or final words before we wrap up this week there, Greedo?
yeah, since this was the Stormtrooper based episode,
Yes.
anybody watching and wanting to participate, please let us know what you like about the Imperial troops or dislike, or your favorite moments, least favorite moments. Are the Stormtroopers a lost cause going forward at this point, or can they be brought back? And has what we got already enough? Is it time to move on, or
Time to move on based on
are the
what?
Stormtroopers eternal? I don't know. That's always been the question, hasn't it?
He's watching you
He's got soulless eyes like a shark.
like a shark's eyes.
Shark's eyes are all over white.
When they bite into
Then he shoots the wall.
Some really, really bad Quint impressions here. So, oh man.
Uncle Owen was in the water, and I touched him on the shoulder, and he flipped over, and they blasted him in half.
Blasted him. Wow. Yeah, I don't know if they can be redeemed at this point. I would hope so, but I had a little hope with Death Troopers. Maybe they'll bring. I mean, even though we've had Death Troopers in Mandalorian, but not to a great extent. But I'd like to see. I'd like to see a little bit of that fear,
Mm-hmm.
and that sort of aura that they had in the original trilogy. That these are dangerous and you don't want to be around them. And now, like you said, it's kind of more like, you almost expect to hear the Benny Hill music when you see a squad of Stormtroopers running up.
It's pretty much summed up by that guy almost getting left behind and having to jump on in the Mandalorian when the ramp is going up.
It's lifting off and he's just has to jump to get on it. Yeah. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up right there. The state of modern Stormtroopers, unfortunately. One honorable mention, I will say, I do like the Sith Troopers just because I think red's a cool color on the armor. So, even though we never really got to see them do anything, I just think the look, the styling was cool. I just like it.
It's like some interior designer just slaving away in the First Order. I really think red expresses what the Emperor is about best, and I just really want to express myself and somehow made that happen. all those tons of Sith in their robes, like slaving away trying to make red armor for these whoever it was that was the Sith troopers. We don't even know.
Yeah, I know. We literally just kind of threw them in as an afterthought at the end of the
I'm thinking it's like Sauron or whatever. It's like they were empty husks. They were animated by the will of the Emperor, and they're just about to win, and then he dies, and they all just fall. The pieces fall over. Like a mist comes out of them, and it's all over. This sounds like a JJ idea.
It does. All right, guys. Well, that's going to be it for this week. So, the drill. Hit the like button. Hit the bell icon if you want updates for when we post new episodes. We're back to kind of doing one a week again here with our 10 parsecs format. Definitely leave us some comments. We like hearing from you, what you did and didn't like. Just give us a back and forth, and we'll see if maybe we can take some of your ideas and run with them on the next some future episodes.
And we do promise it every week, but there has been a herd of wild Gundark sighting.
I heard
in
rumors.
A field on the Canto Bight.
Mm-hmm.
That some pesky unwanted children didn't do their jobs properly and didn't latch the Gundark pin. and so the Gundarks all ran out into the
Oh,
fields.
okay.
And
Well, it was weird because I got a cryptic sort of message from a Gundark today. It was weird. Yeah, I still have to I'm still kind of decoding it now, but yeah, I definitely had a message from one today. Yeah,
well,
weird.
I heard a rumor that in that wild Gundark herd there is a civilized one, a domesticated one that may be hiding in that field. And as long as those ridiculous children don't, cause any more trouble, and get all the Gundarks mowed down or enslaved, then maybe.
Well, maybe Broom Boy can help us.
Yes. Yeah, he is our only hope.
He is. So, he is the only hope for the universe at this point.
And I'm also, I can't wait for his acolyte Swiffer child.
Swiffer child. All right. I think on that note.
And their droid Roomba 213. Everything will be sparkling fresh by the time they use the Force. They've done with the Force.
All right. Thanks for sticking it out with us. If you did, if you didn't, I don't blame you.
No.
but yeah, we appreciate you. We appreciate everybody checking us out. We'll see you next week. Take care, guys. Bye.
Scum and villainy, it's a wretched hive. But life ain't always teddy bears, fireworks, and high.
Okay, I see the recording. I kind of was like, I hope somebody remembers.
Oh yeah, right.
Stick around long enough, you'll be lucky just to lose a hand. Singing yum num, raise your glass and sing yum num, yum num. At the Cantina Club.
Ooh, all
I
right.
am altering the format.
Pray I don't alter it any further. All right, so we've just making sure we've got everything ready to go here. So we've got our 3 topics. We've got
Calrissian.
Calrissian.
It is said you've had sex with robots. Is that what happened to C-3PO in your care?